Okay, so here we are in turn 16 of Silverton. Winter turn. Let's take a look at what the players are doing. Now, technically, I think if I recall correctly, have my snow plows on the map already. I don't see a point to that. I do it just during the operating phase because they clutter things up and they make it very difficult to operate. And there's no real effect to it by not doing it early. Okay, so red pushing to the Steamboat Springs. They're trying to put a claim there. Green's competing with them directly at a slight penalty. Blue ended up grabbing Georgetown. They went later in the turn. Red had decided the Steamboat Springs was actually more desirable, and Green was given the choice between the two and said, well, I want the one where I've got the track and I'm not at a penalty. Blue has that big +2 bonus. Okay. So that's red's action. Let's look at 2 is purple. Hooking up this Sunnyside mine that they're claiming. They've got a few coal mines and some other stuff nearby. They kind of probably should be thinking things like Lumberton and Dolores instead. But they went early. They grabbed what they wanted. They're also pushing down here. This puts them in a position to cut a deal with white and or yellow for El Paso, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, all that stuff. There is actually an open route into Santa Fe and an open route into Albuquerque and an open route into El Paso, but their chance of getting any of these, especially with their pool of tokens, is very low because they're going to, other than the El Paso, they're all going to be kind of curve around routes, so they'll be more expensive than they look. Obviously, if they could shoot down to here and get here and nobody opposed them, that would be great. But that's not going to happen. They want to make sure that they get those passenger runs with one of the 2 players. Those players kind of, one of them probably should have played here to try to force it to be them. But that didn't happen. And I'm kind of surprised yellow didn't do that, or white for that matter, since they played afterwards. But that might be, in white's case, they think they've got the edge because yellow appears to be doing better. In yellow's case, maybe they were kind of warned off. Hey, you do that, you're not going to get it, you know, if you lose. I don't know. Anyway, whatever, they left it alone. Speaking of white, they went into Lumberton, and you can see yellow also is going for that. That's a route that's available very close to where yellow's heading. They laid their track for it, but white with Cuba isn't far from it. So it was desirable to both of them. This track also helped get yellow to Cuba, and they have their mines there. There's sort of a fight over that area at this point. Let's see where else we are. 4 is blue. Blue, yes. Blue grabbed the Georgetown. We know about that. They're also deciding to try to make their run back down to El Paso. Worst comes to worse, they could link up with white and maybe force white to pay the full value of that shared route. But they don't think they want to really do that. At the very least, they're going to force white to have to try to defend the territory. And if they cut down and get as far as Santa Rosa, they're in pretty good shape. They can still be stopped just about anywhere, though. That's the point. Someone's allowed to come out of here, I think. I believe you're allowed 2 of the 3 El Paso routes. So white could come out of here. White could certainly shoot up here. They can be blocked everywhere. So I don't know. That's kind of the problem with the El Paso area, is with 2 players playing around in it, you can't get in there. And that's kind of the truth. Salt Lake City, 2 players in there, you're not going to be able to get in. And over in this area, it was tough too. All right, well, we'll resolve it and see what happens. Well, for the challenges, red won Steamboat Springs, Lumberton, neither side took it. And I'm going to take the counters off because that's essentially the same effect. You're supposed to leave them there. Again, it doesn't do anything to do so except confuse me to have those counters there thinking, oh, maybe I didn't do the challenge. So the one little weirdness with doing snowplows during operating phases, well, green snowplows had to be checked during purple's operating round because purple would collect the money, half the money from that. They failed. All that money thrown into them, it didn't quite work. It failed on the big lump. And, well, that's $700 they each don't get. So that's kind of painful. Alright. Turned out to be a low money turn anyhow. Blue and yellow, their conglomeration also failed running over this run. Green actually made no money. They couldn't deliver anything. And both their runs were cut off by the snow. No big shock there. We have to fill out some of these. Now, I kind of made a mistake with, who is it? Yellow, who had this Pueblo to Santa Fe run that they didn't grab. I'm not sure how big a mistake is. Had they not grabbed it, had they tried to grab it, they wouldn't have gotten to stall Lumberton. So I just don't know. But we've got, ooh, Maryville Gold. And some more Leadville stuff too. Anyway, got to take a look at the prices. Not seeing as many commodities dumped, in part because the bad weather prevented some of the stuff from getting through, but not a lot. If you look, green was really prevented. They were the ones really prevented. Red managed to dump their stuff, and blue has no problem. And down here there's no real problem. So I think it's more that the resources are drying up. The mines have been crapping out. We see this pile getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we'll see what the prices maybe will start coming up a little bit. There's still a lot of coal in Denver, though. Not a huge amount, but a decent. Well, prices ended up pretty much level. A little bit of an increase in, say, silver. Most of the rest, not much decrease where there wasn't anything sold. Things kind of stayed. Things didn't fall back where there wasn't, where there was stuff sold. Where there wasn't stuff sold, in some cases like El Paso, you can see the prices maxing out again or close to it. So, turn 17 here, springtime. ID's at 5. It turned that last fall. Every fall it seems to up. Alright, what do we got? Quite a bit, actually. First player was purple, and their biggest goal was they concluded a deal with white for the Salt Lake City to Santa Fe. That's the biggest money they've got right now. I think there's a Salt Lake City to El Paso under here, but they don't want to spend their prospector. If somebody else wants to, that's cool, but they've got other things to do, not just claiming that. They may be buying another prospector soon, but they've got stuff like Schofield and Maryville near them, which can provide a greater influx of capital than a couple of turns of digging to try to, digging that out, try to see what they can get. It could also be under here, which yellow is pulling out. So we'll see what falls as some of those slots are opened up. We're also seeing major competition for this Leadville silver mine. Everybody in the east is interested in and is trying to grab it. Some interesting track plays going towards the Santa Rosa area. Blue started cutting down, so white, who went 6th, pushed into there. That also is kind of a threat to yellow, who's cutting across, trying to gut it. Yellow's almost got it hooked up, but if they play here, well, white can cut them off. Likewise, white and yellow are competing over El Vado. Why? Well, because white's got the track to Cuba. Yellow is not going to have an easy route into Cuba. And although they've got a couple of Cuba mines, they may have to sell them. Yellow may have to sell them to white if white owns all the track there. It's one of the dickier things you can do in this game. Red is cutting out in their western areas, making it to Salt Lake City, and also cutting down to get at some of the coal mines here. Hey, if Schofield's open, they'll grab that. Red doesn't have a lot of mines operating. Decent amount. They got 3 of them now. But they feel like they could use more, and purple certainly could use more with only 2 run. Well, actually only 1 running. One of them's got a depletion marker on it. I think that's about it. All right, start resolving things. Starting first with the competitions. We got a couple of big ones going on over there and up there. Well, blue won the competition for the Leadville mine, and yellow won and upgraded their surveyor for the Brute to Cuba. So they're not going to be shut out there. They're not going to be able to stop themselves from Santa Rosa, though. But maybe they could give some cash or something. There's always deals available, but the cash would have to be including a white piece being put here. That wouldn't be tough. It's just it's because, well, I think white's going to claim it because they want to get to Gallup. They don't see a reason not to, but then yellow might cut across here and try to fight them for it. So there might be a deal involved, there might not. We'll see. Okay, so, well, the deliveries were made. We see a decent amount of lumber showing up kind of across the board with coal. Blue, this is all blue dropping it into Pueblo. Red loved their new market in Salt Lake City. That was, made them $800, probably a decent percentage of that, just because they hooked it up. And they're going to have that 3 markets now from now on. Yellow has it too with Pueblo. It's kind of a nice situation for them. I don't know if they took advantage of it this time. I don't think so. Coal, they didn't need it. Lumber, Pueblo would have been an advantage if they're the ones, and I believe they are, who dumped that lumber. They kind of made a mistake. They should have been dropping it in Pueblo. Oh well. But an interesting deal did arise. White and yellow have decided to bury the hatchet and not in each other. They're going to try to share that route. White's got theirs hooked up. Yellow will go to McCaffrey. White's got permission to push up. Now that's an ugly situation, but yellow's got the advantage. If white cheats them, they can still fight for this. So that's kind of a bit of an insurance policy. There's a little bit of a risk in that white could drop down to here if they go after yellow. So that's the one risk, but it seems okay. Cuba, the copper's being held off on, the gold's being held off on, the silver's being held off on. All those things can go up. The silver certainly will. The copper probably will. So, and since yellow's the only one holding copper, as long as they're the only one with it, they may just sit on it for a while. Now I've got 3, 5, 6, 7. I get one more card here. A crusted butt. And Denver to Grand Junction. This is card 15. It went away when card 22 was taken. I think 22's already out. There's 21. Yeah. This one goes away when 20 appears. I gotta look for those, because they might actually. There's 23. There's 22. That goes away, and that's card 20, which is what forces this discard and this discard. So that's kind of an interesting situation. That's Salt Lake City to Pueblo. Purple, again, has the option on it, but it looks like red's route is perfect on that. And they'll probably pick that sucker up rather than compete for the green-purple route first. Just to get that out of the way and then see, do I have the Denver to Salt Lake City or Salt Lake City to Colorado Springs? Which one of those am I best at? But it's best to just grab the one he knows he's got. That's a direct route, and there's no question he's going to have the better route there, I think. All right. Well, we got the prices to check, and nobody wanted to buy any capital equipment this time. And we see almost all of the prices have topped out. The gold, of course, doesn't really. It's very depressed in terms of its chart prevents it from ever really zooming back up or zooming up. It has a tendency to slowly grow over the game, but you're lucky if you get that 350 for it. Unlike, say, silver or copper, which you can usually do that with. The only exception, Pueblo and Denver. Pueblo actually went down, Denver went up, and is a pretty valuable place to sell your coal right now. So I think we'll see that getting dumped instead of waiting for it to go up to 140, especially with Pueblo down at 60. Black needs to keep delivering coal all game. The only real exception to that is, well, they might have too much silver to really crush the price. And we're definitely going to see that Aspen silver go. So everybody who's got silver is going to want to deliver it next turn. Hopefully I've taken care of all the cards. I'll make a double check on that. But this one's going up.